So I actually did fail on my very first truck ride, which was really like a gut punch. It makes you second guess, like, am I here? I don't know. Am I doing the right thing? Was this really meant for me? But I did come back past it like 2 weeks after that. But I definitely had those moments of questioning, is this really for me? Oh my gosh, what have I done? I signed such a big loan, but it all worked out.
How's it going, everybody? Welcome to the Right Rudder Marketing Aviation Business Podcast. We are extremely happy to see you guys here. If you are listening on Spotify or YouTube or on Instagram, wherever you are, we're glad that you're on here. We're excited to welcome you and excited to welcome our guests. So before we dive into all this stuff, we have a few housekeeping things that we always like to do on the Aviation Business Podcast. So first off, this is sponsored by Right Rudder Marketing. We are a marketing agency based in St. Louis. I'm a pilot. I'm the founder of Right Rudder Marketing. We have a really great team of web designers, pilots, specialists, ad specialists, all those type of things, and we help flight schools. So our mission and vision is to help 100 flight schools grow and scale their businesses, double their enrollment. That's what we're focused on in the aviation space. So if you are a flight school and you're looking to grow your school, please check us out. 314-804-1200 is our phone number. Also, you can check us out at rightruddermarketing.com, or you can send us an email, info@rightruddermarketing.com. With that being said, if you have a wonderful story, I love the stories. If you have a cool story, or maybe you're a vendor, you have a product or a service, and you'd like to be on this podcast, the Aviation Business Podcast, check out the aviationbusinesspodcast.com. That's where all our shows are hosted on. But also reach out to us. Reach out to us. Again, the phone number 314-804-1200. Squawk VFR for us, please. Info@Right Rudder Marketing is over there too, if you want to send us an email, and we'd love to have you on the show. So we are booked out until I think July or so, maybe August. I'm not sure yet. But yeah, we'd love to welcome you on here. So without further ado, let's talk about today. We have a special guest. Her name is Carly, and I always like to let the guests introduce themselves. So without further ado, we have Carly on here. Maybe, give us a quick introduction.
Yeah, hi. Excited to be here. So I'm Carly Chamerlik. I'm a CFII, an aviation content creator, and more recently, a part of the marketing team at ForeFlight.
Cool. So one of the things I like to do, just to kind of drill into your story here. Oh, by the way, so Raul, our producer over there, he's sharing the link here. Check out carlychamerlik.com. That's her website. Also check her out on socials. It's at Carly Chamerlik. It's also on YouTube, Instagram. I think her main audience is on Instagram, but she's also have other channels up and running as well. Check her out. One of the things I like to do is kind of drill into the story and see how you got here. So you're currently working with ForeFlight. You're a CFII, you said, and you're flying around and you're having a great time. How did you, get to where you are today?
Yeah, so I've been in aviation for about 8 years now, but I really got my start as a flight attendant. I was fresh out of college with an art degree, didn't really know what I wanted to do, so I kind of dabbled in some things, but eventually decided I'm going to go try flying for an airline for a year, and then I'll figure out what I wanted to do. But I ended up falling in love with it, as many flight attendants do. I talked to a lot of people who said the same thing. I'm going to try this for a year and then do something else, but you end up really falling in love with just the lifestyle of being a flight attendant. But for me, I could kind of start to see early on that wasn't what I envisioned myself doing for my entire career. I could kind of start to look down the road and say, what do I want in 5, 10, 20 years? And I didn't think it would be that. So as much as I loved the lifestyle, I loved the travel, I was also looking at, I can see the whole pay scale. I can see the top of what I'm going to make, and it's not bad, but it's not great. So that was also a motivating factor for sure. But I would, help with the mid-flight bathroom breaks for the pilots, go up to the flight deck, chat with them, and just kind of started getting that bug that they have the same lifestyle I have. We fly very similar schedules, but they make 5 times more. They have a better view. They have a door they can close, so they don't have to talk to the passengers 100% of the time. So all of that was looking pretty good. I also was really just drawn in by the appeal of a new challenge, of learning something different, just really expanding myself and my abilities. So all those reasons, I started to look into flight schools. In 2019, I took a discovery flight. I started kind of setting money aside to get my private pilot. I thought I'll start with private pilot certificate. I'll see if I want to continue from there. Obviously, COVID hit, and I was with United at the time, so they furloughed the bottom, I think, like 5,000 flight attendants on their roster. So since I was about a year and a half in at that point, I definitely fell below the line of who was getting furloughed. So I was taken off the line, and that lasted for about 7 months. So in that time, I kind of set aside the flight school dreams and was just going back to my art. So I started a photography business, started working with product-based businesses and doing marketing and photography for them. And just, it was really cool because in that time of COVID, I was living in Chicago and I had clients around the country just sending their products to me. I would photograph them in my little apartment, and it was a great side gig for me. But going back to flying, I did get called back, but I was already looking ahead at flight schools at that point. So I moved out to Arizona. Didn't know how long I'd be furloughed. I remembered talking to flight attendants who had been flying much longer than me. And around the time of 9/11 or other major world events where a lot of people were getting furloughed, some of those flight attendants were taken off the line for multiple years. So I just decided I'm going to take the next steps, whatever that looks like, and not wait around for my job to come back, because who knows when it could come back. So I moved to Arizona, got called back to continue to be based in Chicago. So I was commuting for a little bit, and it was a lot. So when I did commit to a flight school in the Phoenix area, I left my job as a flight attendant. It was just too much at the same time. I ended up going through a 141 program in Mesa out at Falcon Field. And at the time, the only flight time I had as a pilot was my 1 hour from a discovery flight. So I went essentially 0 time to CFII in about a year and a half. And I had an incredible journey there. I learned so much. And now I'm here doing what I do now. I'm back home in Tennessee, and I worked pretty much full time as an independent CFI for about a year following my flight training, so 2023 to 2024-ish. And in that time, I started creating content. So it started very organically. I started just sharing clips from my flights and just things I was doing because I thought my friends would think it was cool. I wanted to show my family what I was doing. And clips just started to take off that I was posting. So I leaned into that and just continued to evolve my content to share more from the CFI perspective and things that I thought could be helpful for students and things that I thought I wish that I had known this before I started a 141 program. Just anything I could think of that would be helpful for general aviation and specifically student pilots was kind of my content niche. So evolved that audience on Instagram to over 50,000 people, started a YouTube channel sharing kind of longer format, more geared towards CFIs. So helping especially independent CFIs navigate that world. Because as an independent CFI, you're obviously responsible from everything from the safety of the flight to finding your clients and marketing and staying compliant in your business and doing all these things. So I've kind of tried to fill that gap with my content to just help student pilots, help independent CFIs, and also entertain because that's fun. But yeah, that's kind of led to where I'm at now. So now, because of my content, ForeFlight found me about a year and a half ago and they didn't offer me the job, but they offered me an interview and said, hey, we think you could be a great fit for our marketing team. We'd love to talk to you. So ended up getting the job, and I've been with them now full time for a little over a year.
Wow. That's quite the story. Let's roll it back a little bit.
Yeah. Sorry, I told the whole thing.
Yeah. There's a lot of good tidbits in there that I want to kind of dive into. So, first off, you went to school and you got an art degree. What kind of made the switch from art to like aviation as a whole? So I know that there's a lot of flight attendant stuff and CFI stuff and then ForeFlight, but even before that, there was, you had started working with your art, and finished your degree. And then how did that kind of transition happen to aviation?
So after college, I didn't really know what I wanted to do yet. I thought I might work in marketing, I might work in retail, and I was kind of dabbling in different things, but I actually the year immediately following college, I did another art program abroad, and so I did a lot of traveling in
Oh,
Europe and India and just went a lot of incredible places. Once I came back home after being away for 7 months, I kinda had this like, I miss traveling. I don't really like being in one place anymore. So it did take me a year or two following that time in my life to make the jump to become a flight attendant, but it kind of was always in the back of my mind, just thinking, how can I make travel a part of my life again? So that was really the initial spark for me that made me want to get into aviation was travel and just a love of flying around and seeing new places and yeah, so that just inadvertently led me into this career where I've found true home and a true passion for general aviation.
yeah. It's that one they call it wanderlust, right? That's the need to travel. And I think, well, I don't know. There's you kind of look at these flight schools, especially the ones that we work at, and I kind of see this normal pattern of like who actually pursues flight training or flight attendants type of stuff, the pilots, and who wants this type of lifestyle. And there's I've kind of broke it down to different categories. So one is like, oh, it's my family. I've always been involved in aviation. Maybe my father was in the Air Force or Army. That's one kind of what do you call it, pathway I've seen that's pretty frequent. Another one is, your I call them like mech nerds or something like that, or mechanics. They love gearheads. They love working with tinkering around with engines and all this stuff. They would fly around. I find that's more in the kind of backcountry type stuff, doing a lot of tailwheel and all that. I gotta see a little more grungy kind of personalities there. The third one is, engineers and science people, people that like, working, the aeronautical part of things, like learning all about science and weather, and they really get a interest in aviation and aerospace. And the last one, is traveling. So for me, I think I kind of encompass all of them. Maybe not the family part. I think that's the only thing I don't encompass because no one in my family, at least my immediate family, was in aviation. Although my father really wanted to fly. Like, he kind of talked about it when I was growing up. He's always said, "Oh, I want to fly one day." And like, okay, whatever. Then for me, I was trained as a scientist, so I'm a chemist. And then I like engineering things. And for me, when I was now, it's not furloughed, but when I was working in the factory was scheduled to close. So it's basically a furlough, but in like, I guess, manufacturing environment. They were scheduling the factory to close, and I was looking for a job. And that actually led me to get a job as an English teacher after that in Japan. So I worked in Japan for about a year, and after that, I realized that first off, English teaching is not my career. I don't want to do that long term. So that's one thing I realized. But second, since I was already halfway across the world, I started traveling. So I started backpacking. I started doing the nomad thing. Went to Southeast Asia. Also went to Europe. Went to France and Italy and all stuff. I just got the travel bug, the wanderlust thing too. That eventually carried on. I eventually worked again in the factory, and then from there, what do you call it? Always scheduled like a couple weeks off to travel, but then eventually I got to kind of as a manager, kind of got to manager level, director level, and I was like, I want to be a pilot. So then I started pilot training. That's kind of my story began. Um, so everyone's story is different. I kind of want to dive into your story. So you kind of got the wanderlust, the travel bug, and you started the flight attendant stuff. And you kind of told us a little bit about how you got transitioned into working as and eventually becoming a CFI. Walk us through, I guess, the pilot training process. So one of the things that I find with pilot training is that there's a big washout rate. For example, a lot of people try to do and try to become a pilot, and they don't make it. So what are some of the challenges that you had when you were flight training to get to be a CFII? What are some tips and tricks that you can give to the student pilots that are out there looking to finish their ratings, finish their certificates?
Yeah, that's a great question. It was really interesting being in a huge program like the one that I was in and seeing just everyone's unique experience and their own journey through it. And the people that you thought, I remember I flew early on with a guy who I was like, this guy is destined to be an airline captain. Like he just has that air about him. He's going to make it. He quit after private pilot. And I was like, this just changed my reality. I thought for sure if anyone's going to finish the program, it's that guy. You just never know. But for me personally, I think in the beginning, I really didn't understand what I was getting myself into fully. I'm the type of person where I don't need to know all the details to start something, which can be a great quality and it can be to my detriment. Maybe I should research things more sometimes before just starting, but it's also then I tend to not overthink things too much before I get started and not need all the information ahead of time. So I think for me, my private pilot phase was super, super challenging because it was just everything was brand new. It was information overload. Some of these kids, like you said, were coming in and they were from airline families. They had grown up, holding an airplane in their crib. They knew they were going to be a pilot one day. And that just wasn't my experience. So I felt like a lot of things I was playing catch up on. I was also older than a lot of people that I was training alongside. There were 18 or 20-year-olds in my training class, and I started when I was turning 29. So I was definitely, I wasn't old, but I was at the older end of the age range at the school. So coming to it as like a second career almost, I definitely had that challenge of just learning from square one. And I went into my check ride thinking that I had it nailed because I had the flying down pretty good. But the book knowledge, I really couldn't explain myself very well in a lot of ways. So I actually did fail on my very first check ride, which was really like a gut punch. It makes you second guess, like, am I here? I don't know. Am I doing the right thing? Was this really meant for me? But I did come back past it like 2 weeks after that. I think it was just a lot of it was nerves for me. A lot of it was, I don't really know what this is going to be like. I've never sat through a check ride before. So after that, my training went much, much smoother. I feel like just having that initial check ride experience gave me the context for how to prepare better for the future check rides that I did go through. But I definitely had those moments of questioning, is this really for me? Oh my gosh, what have I done? I signed such a big loan. But it all worked out. It all worked out. It came out the other side with all of my ratings. So I think that is something, though, that I try to emphasize now when I'm creating content or when I'm speaking to a student pilot or talking to anyone who is weighing their options with the different schools that they're looking at is I really want people to take their time to find the right school. I think I kind of jumped at the first one that I took a tour of and I was like, this is great. They have planes. Let's go do it. And now I kind of want people to, think through those initial pieces, think through your financial situation and set yourself up well on the back end before you go into a huge commitment like this. Because especially in a 141 program, I left my job to do this. We were on call every single day, so you could not have a full-time job going through a program like this. And if you wanted to have a job, it kind of just had to be gig work. It had to be something you could pick up at the last minute if you had a weather cancellation or something and had the day free. But I did see people fall out of the program because they tried to do too much. They weren't giving their full time and attention to the program. So people who would try to work the backside of the clock and come and fly the next morning, that just didn't work. So you had to be able to give your full time and attention to this to really succeed. And you had to have a lot of grit and you just had to have that desire to finish that was so much stronger than all of the other stuff and the doubts and it didn't even matter if you had the confidence from the beginning. If you had moments where your confidence wavered, you just had to have the grit to keep going and keep pushing forward.
It's so true. Like the perseverance aspect of it is like, that's where people fall short. And here's the problem. It's like people that get into flight training, they don't know how much is involved, unfortunately. I think you hit the nail on the head there, and, like, I personally didn't know what I was getting myself into. Like, I did a discovery flight. I was like, "This is awesome. I love it." And then I started flying, started taking lessons, and next thing you know, I'm 3,000 out of my pocket. I'm like, "Where the hell did the money go?" And I kept flying for a bit, then I realized I can't afford it. So I actually I took a pause. It took about 6 months off my private, just because like, I thought I just could pay it as I went, work and do it part-time, and, that was not true. So, what I did is I ended up saving about $10,000 just, in that 6 months, just saved it up and then did my online ground school, in-person ground school as well. Got my medical done, written done, and then finally after 6 months of saving money, I just went full force because like, I had experienced it enough. And I was like, "Yeah, I just gotta finish." And, that's kinda how I am right now going through, when I went through instrument, it was like, "Okay, just gotta keep going, just gotta keep at it." Same thing with commercial, it's like, "Okay, we flew every day for the past month. Okay, we haven't got check ride scheduled. Okay, we'll just keep it up. Gotta keep current and keep proficient." And it's like you're just burning money, but then you look at the light at the end of the tunnel. And you get your certificate, you get your rating. You can get your career going. There's a lot of return on investment, but you got to persevere. You got to do it. It takes so much grit. Um, so what you went through the program and you kind of graduated as a CFII, and then from there you mentioned you did instructing, right? So as an instructor, what are some of the things that you commonly saw with student pilots that if you can go back in time, you can just fix it? Like, how do I fix the student pilot? What are some of the common threads that you saw that maybe you can enlighten some of the student pilots as they start flying and start the journey? What type of advice can you give to them?
I think the most common thing I saw is that nobody wants to take their written, and that is the one thing, like, I'm sick of telling people to take their written, "Just go take it. It's good for you. I know it sucks," but that I would say that was, like, every student across the board, like, nobody wanted to take it, but,
Take
I
your
guess
written.
in the
Do it. Do it now.
yeah, do it, just do it. It's good for 2 years, go do it. But yeah, that wasn't, like, the fun flying part, so nobody wanted to do that part of
Yeah.
training. But I primarily worked with, private pilots, so it was a lot of those people who didn't have any prior experience preparing for a check ride or taking a written exam even, so I think a lot of it was just the unfamiliar territory, and especially being an independent CFI, it's a different world when your students are operating individually rather than as a class, as a school, versus when I went through a 141 program, hundreds and hundreds of students, I came in assigned to a class of about 10 people that we were all
Uh-huh.
kind of tracking alongside each other the whole time, more or less. So you had people around you that had similar goals. Everyone was very career oriented. So I think that helped a lot too. But then in the Part 61 world, being independent, you have students with all different backgrounds, all different goals. A lot of people I worked with did not have any intention of going beyond private pilot, or maybe if they wanted to go to commercial, they didn't want to become an airline pilot. I think I only worked with maybe one or two people who actually had the airlines on their mind as a future goal. So it is just completely different in that sense. Just um, really successful independent CFIs, I think, are able to tailor the experience just enough to that individual student and their goals. The training
Right.
at its core is still the same, and you're still teaching them the same information, the same maneuvers, all of that. But everyone is going to operate differently based on their goals, their budget, their other obligations. If they have a family, if they have another job that they're working, it's not the same thing as the person who's going to go through a fast track program to get to the airlines as soon as possible. They're just going to train differently. They're going to move at different speeds, and they're going to have different priorities as well when they're going through training.
So going through the 141 program, you kind of experienced I guess the syllabus and the regiment. Like, hey, you gotta do this lesson first. Here we're doing steep turns. Okay, now we're doing a ground session. It's like you have to prescribe to the syllabus, and it's kind of how they do the 141 track. Then you worked as an independent instructor, which is 61, right? So I guess my question is, what are some of the advantages and disadvantages of 61 versus 141, and what do you recommend for students that are looking to be a pilot?
I think the something I have loved about the Part 61 world is that flexibility and being able to I would have a lesson plan. I would have a syllabus that I would reference with a brand new student. I would give them the syllabus and say, "Hey, here's kind of the plan of what you can expect." But if a student takes a few weeks off and then comes back, I'm not going
Yeah.
to jump right back into where we left off on the syllabus. So I liked being able to when I'm working with those people, especially who are just hobby pilots and don't want to have a career in flying. And so they're maybe a little bit more sporadic in when they would come to me for lessons. I loved being able to just tailor it to what what they felt like was a good fit for them at that point. So, are we pushing for a check ride? Then we have to schedule you more frequently. We have to check off XYZ. If you're wanting to like really nail one maneuver and you're only going to come every couple of weeks, then we'll just keep working on steep turns or whatever it is for a couple of flights until you feel good about it. And so I really liked that flexibility to be able to tailor the lesson more to the student. Where in 141, if you don't pass a lesson, then you have to retake it, and that could cost you more. That could, my program had a bank of additional flight hours that you could pull from. So if you did have to repeat a lesson, it wasn't the end of the world. And it wouldn't cost you more unless you went beyond that allotment of extra hours, which I thought was also really nice. So as I'm saying that out loud now, I would recommend to students to read the contract very thoroughly if you are considering a fast track program and really understand what that contract is providing you. So, um, are you expected to pass every single thing the first time? What will it cost you if you don't pass something the first time? Because that's just a part of training that
Hmm.
you may pass every single check ride. Many pilots do, and but you still may repeat a lesson here or there. You may not have like a perfect landing someday, and you're going to have to repeat that lesson until you can nail that. So,
Yeah.
understanding on the front end, do I have some room for grace hours, or is this going to be more on top of the upfront cost, and really understanding the contract? I will say though, 141, some pros of 141 was the reduced hours. So I walked out of that program around 220 total hours as a CFII.
Oh, okay.
So it was more expensive hours, but I was required to clock fewer hours than someone going through a Part 61 program. So you do get a little bit of an edge there.
Yeah.
If your goal is speed,
It's a
that
small edge,
can
though. It's just like
a small
like you
edge.
think it's a
It's not
small edge. You think
huge.
about this, if you're trying to go to the airline, you're trying to get 1,500 hours. What's 250 versus 200? I mean, it's hate to
Yeah,
say it.
no, you got to get those hours eventually, anyways,
You gotta get the hours eventually.
and yeah, exactly. So, yeah, it's and my program also ran much longer than it was supposed to. They
Yeah.
sell you one thing and then you may not actually hit that timeline. So, that's something else I really caution people, just like take this as like best case scenario. Like that would be great if you finish in
Yeah.
9 months or 12 months or whatever the contract says, but prepare for it to be longer, and then you won't be in a bad spot if it takes longer or costs more than you think it will.
I love how you said, like, read the contract. We had another guest here. It was a insurance for, flight schools and pilots, and they're like, "Make sure you read your contract," because no one just everyone just signs it away, but then, if they get in an accident, it's like they're not gonna cover it if it was not stated in the contract. Same thing with flight training. If certain schools, I'm not gonna say any names out there, but certain schools, if you don't pass a certain, what they call it, check ride, or a certain, what they call it, stage point or stage check, you're out. So, you gotta make sure you're up to snuff there, and you know what you're getting yourself into. So, me personally, I've trained at both 141 and 61. I see the benefits of both. I like the flexibility of 61. It's like we call them Part 61 cowboys. So if a student is having trouble landing, we call it pattern purgatory. They'll stay in pattern purgatory for a month and just do the loop. But then they'll eventually get it and they can move on to the next thing, right? Compared to 141 is like, hey, we were only focused on these two lessons for short and soft field takeoff. The next lesson we're doing steep turns. So if you don't get it, you don't get it. Then we got to revisit it on your stage check. So it's like, okay, well, that's kind of the pros and cons. I do like 141s usually have a little more resources as far as availability, as far as staff, and as far as student resources as well. So you have a community. Usually, it's usually bigger schools. Um, on the other hand, if you have a good relationship, it doesn't matter. Okay, so at the end of the day, what really matters is the relationship between the student pilot, which is you or whoever's listening, and your CFI. So it doesn't matter if it's 61 or 141, but if you guys don't jive very well, it's going to be a very hard 40 to 70 hours getting your private. I mean, that's kind of like right there. Cool. Let's move on to, so you were doing CFI stuff for a bit. You were independent instructor. Okay, one more question before we move on, actually. Some of our audience members and some of the people that listen to our follow Right Rudder Marketing, we do have a small population of independent CFIs that follow us and also ask for marketing tips and advice. I can go on for hours about marketing stuff, but from an independent CFI that did it for a bit, and are you still doing it, by the way? Are you still doing independent CFI stuff?
A little bit. So I keep my certificate current, and I have a couple of like recurring clients that come to me for flight reviews. But because I'm now working full time, I backed down taking ongoing students. I just didn't want to. I wouldn't be able to give somebody as much time as I would like them to have. I want someone who is pushing for a check ride to be able to fly several times a week, and that's just not something I could offer right now. So, but yeah, to answer your question, yes, I still take on clients, just very, very few.
Very selectively. So I guess the next question on the CFI part is if you can give any advice to people that are doing the independent CFI route. You said I think prior to the show when me and you were talking, you're talking about starting a business, making sure it's legal and all that stuff. Then you got to worry about the FAA and all this stuff. Then you got to worry about marketing and sales. So it's basically running a startup, which is, I know firsthand with Right Rudder, it can blow your mind. You'll get stressed super easily if you can't control it. So, what are some tips and some tricks and some advice you can give to those independent CFIs that are just starting out, or maybe even those seasoned independent CFIs that want to grow their business?
I'd say my biggest tip is just to let yourself be seen and put yourself out there, whatever that looks like for the area you're in, the airport you're flying out of. That could mean be present on social media. I found that really served my business. I found a lot of my clients through posting regularly on social media. But if that's not your thing, you don't have to do that. I do think that gives you a big benefit if you have some kind of social media presence and can find a way to speak to the client you're looking for. But also, like, I fly out here in the country now. I used to fly it. We were talking about Falcon Field, huge airport in Arizona, but now I fly out of a little country untowered airport, and it's a community there. People know each other. They know faces. They know names. And so the marketing strategy here to get local clients was printing business cards, putting them in the FBO, walking around the FBO, making friends, stopping by people's hangars. So if it's online, that's great. If it's in person, that's great. I think a mix of both will really serve most people well, because you can gain trust so much faster when you are face to face with someone and they can get to know you and hear your voice, and it goes beyond a social media post. I would say even if your avenue for marketing yourself is social media, I would still say it's super important to show your face and let people hear your voice. That just builds trust, and someone's not probably going to book you if they see an informational quote text on like a still graphic with just like text on it. They're probably not going to book you from that, but they might book you if they see you giving a quick tip about something that they are studying on their written exam right now. If you can give them a little, like, here's how I brief the weather in ForeFlight or whatever tool you're using. If you can just find ways to put yourself out there, you don't have to have great camera presence or speaking abilities. That will evolve and get better with time and with practice, but just being willing to put yourself out there and be seen is really the most important thing you can do as an independent CFI to market yourself.
Exactly right. I mean, yeah, you gotta put some marketing in. So for all the flight school owners out there and independent CFIs, or anyone that's anyone that's trying to start a business, marketing is very important. And Carly knows that firsthand, and she's done a great job. So part of the things that you've done is, like, you had in-person stuff, and you also had digital stuff. So I know, like, almost every FBO in an airport has like this, like, a cork board, bulletin board, or whatever. You can post your business card up there and all this stuff. But then on the online front, you have a lot of this is kind of how we got in contact as well. Digital marketing. You have your social media profiles you're doing. I think my one of our staff members is over here. He had just said, "Hey, you have a YouTube channel and all this stuff. Instagram is a big one." So and then also one other thing you mentioned too is like your first videos that you create, they're gonna suck. They're not, you don't have to have great camera presence to, make a video. You look at my videos from 4 or 5 years ago when I first started, and I cringe. It's so bad. But as you do it more frequently, you get more comfortable with the camera, you get more comfortable with talking kind of on the spot, and you're able to do a better job. And then slowly you invest more in, your scripting, your post-production, pre-production, getting the right equipment, getting the right people involved. And it just happens, it evolves over time, but you have to be committed and you have to be consistent, right? Um, I want to interrupt here for a quick moment. So another housekeeping event that I didn't share in the beginning of the session and the podcast is that we are live on Riverside and also YouTube, Facebook, whatever, LinkedIn, and all that type of stuff. If you do have a question, there is a chat widget over there to the right. You can send something over and you can ask us questions. We do have Adam here. What does he say? So Adam is over here. He says, "Would you want to relocate? Okay, I guess he's trying to get some business on you on the spot here. Would you want to relocate to the Atlanta area and lead student recruitment for a 141 school?" I don't know. I guess someone's giving you a job offer on the spot right here. I don't know who Adam is.
I love it. Another job offer. They start rolling in if you put yourself on camera. Actually, my partner's family is from the Atlanta area, and my sister lives in the Atlanta area, so I do frequent Atlanta. But I am very happy in Tennessee. But I appreciate that so much. But yeah, I hope you find the right recruitment person for your school.
Thanks, Adam. So yeah, if you have questions, if you're there in YouTube or Riverside, go ahead and put them in the comments over there. We'd love to address them on the spot as we have, another 30 minutes to kind of talk and have fun with. So we're talking about the CFI stuff and some challenges in there. After that, you've kind of slowed down the CFI stuff, but you've now moved on to doing other things. So you mentioned ForeFlight. You also mentioned some consulting and all that stuff. I think in my notes here, you had some stuff with, I think, Flying Magazine and all this stuff. Talk to us a little bit about what you're doing now.
Yeah, so actually Flying Magazine, I haven't contributed for them recently. Probably like a year ago was my last one for them. I think I'm still we're still kind of in touch. But a friend of mine from college actually linked me up with Flying Magazine and Plane and Pilot, is the team behind both of those publications. And so that was really fun. While I was freelance CFIing primarily, I was able to do that on the side as well. And that really helped me get my name out there too. So sometimes the most out of the box things, that wasn't something I thought of on my own. Someone else said, "Hey, would you be interested in this?" Just any opportunity you can take to get your name out there and especially to put yourself in a place of proving your knowledge in the industry that you're in is going to be a huge selling point, especially where, you're a marketing company. So SEO and making yourself searchable, that will also lead to not only client bookings, but credibility, just general credibility behind your name helps people trust you too. But yeah, so now what I'm doing, I am a current CFI, but my primary job now is with Jeppesen ForeFlight. So I started with them a little over a year ago. They found me through my content creation. I got a DM on Instagram from someone on the marketing team, and they just said, "Hey, it looks like you're really busy. You kind of do a lot of stuff, but we are looking for," I think they actually came to me because of my Flying Magazine articles. They said, "Hey, we see you're writing general aviation blog posts, and we're looking for someone on our team who can write and someone who's knowledgeable about the app and can write about it." So that's what I do now. If you get emails, if you read the blogs on foreflight.com, if you look at landing pages for new feature releases, a lot of times my hands are on that, and I've written some of those words. So it's really, really fun for me. It's honestly like a dream job. I'd never worked in corporate before, so I didn't know how I would feel about it, but it's been just the best fit that I could have imagined, because I came into that job being a customer of ForeFlight for 3 years before I actually was a part of the team. So for me, when I'm explaining my job, or especially when I first started and I was explaining to my friends the job that I was accepting, my friends who don't fly have never heard of ForeFlight. So I would tell them, like, this is like if I was to go to work for Google, like the Google of my exact niche and industry is like,
Yeah.
I'm like, this is huge. Like everyone in my little general aviation niche either uses it or has heard of it. So it was just a really cool moment for me to get to be on the inside of such an impactful tool.
I love it. Yeah, I personally use ForeFlight as well. I didn't start using like an EFB really until like Instrument, I guess it was, because all the charts and all the stuff. But I think during private, I was just all paper. But ForeFlight has been such a great tool, and for and I guess it leads to it's more of a controversial question, I guess I can say. But do you think with all this modern technology, like ForeFlight, you got the Garmin for not 530, but the G3X, whatever, touch screens. They call them the I don't know if you've heard this before, the children of the magenta line, right? Have you heard of this one before?
Oh yeah, that was a
So,
big 141. We flew with G1000, so they called us
yeah.
that from the very beginning.
Do you think that with all this automation tools, EFBs, and all this stuff, do you think it's hurting or supporting students, pilots on their journey and making more safer, proficient pilots, or do you think it's hindering them because now they're having over reliance on technology?
That's a really good question, and it's super important to really consider because technology is continuing to become a bigger and bigger part of our lives. So I think for me, I really appreciate, I am very biased, but I really appreciate how I went through training. And that was in my private pilot phase. We were told about ForeFlight, but it was not handed to us. It was like, hey, this could make it easier for you to get a weather brief if you want to get it.
Yeah.
But we still like were expected to fly visually. Pilotage dead reckoning charts, and we would turn in handwritten nav logs. We learned charting on a paper chart. I think learning the fundamentals that way helped me understand when I started using more technology later on. It helped me understand what was happening behind the scenes of that tech. So I think there's a place for it. I think that early on, the things that benefited me most, because I think I pretty much always had a ForeFlight subscription. When I first started, I had just the very bottom, like basic tier.
Hmm.
And I would use it to get my weather briefings before I flew. I would use it to organize documents. I started using Logbook once I'd been flying a little bit longer. But in the very beginning, I wasn't even using like the traffic radar on it or anything. I didn't even know the full scope of what the tool could do for at least that private pilot and maybe even into instrument phase. I didn't fully dive into all that ForeFlight could really do. Part of that though, also like I said, we were flying with G1000s. I didn't really need the iPad as
Yeah.
well. Like it was just it was more of a planning tool for me at the time. And now where I am, Part 61, I've been flying a lot more airplanes that have analog instruments, so I use the traffic radar and all those things a lot in flight. But I do think it's important to find that balance, especially early on, to really gain the fundamental skills. I don't think that means you have to do everything on paper, but I do think you should know how to navigate yourself around if your iPad dies and your electrical system dies. And that should not be it is an emergency, but it shouldn't be like a major shocking emergency. Even if you lose your electrical panel, you can still fly the plane. So I think as long as if you're an instructor teaching students, as long as you're introducing ForeFlight as, hey, this is a really beneficial tool that can support what you're doing. It's not end all be all. Like if your iPad is dead one day, you can still go fly. So I think that's just where we kind of start to toe the line, where a lot of students will really lean into technology and really want to do everything by staring at the iPad. So it's kind of finding that balance. I think as you become a more experienced pilot and you have that foundational knowledge nailed down, then that's when I think really diving into ForeFlight, Garmin Pilot, any of those tech tools can be even more beneficial because you understand where the information is coming from and how it fits together.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree with you. Like when I did my private, I did not use an EFB and all this stuff. So my ground instructor, he made us get out what is called the E6B, whatever. It was like the
Oh yeah, we had
whiz
those
wheel.
too.
They call it the whiz wheel thingy. Yeah, they got the whiz wheel out. Then they got like this protractor thing. I forgot what it's called. We don't even use it anymore. It's like it's a ruler basically with angles.
Mhm.
They made the first lesson from ground school. He made us take a sectional chart out and say, okay, put your. I have the wrong word for it. The ruler. Put the ruler from St. Louis to Kansas City. Okay, what heading are you going to be in? I'm like, I don't know, like west or something. So, I definitely picked up the fundamentals, and then eventually, as I did the instrument and beyond, I did use ForeFlight to kind of solidify that. Um, but as as someone that's as a business owner too, I like to equate the magenta line problem or the automation problem even with marketing and all that stuff because AI. So my take on it, I think you need to know the fundamentals, right? So if you don't know how to read a six pack, if you don't know how to read, an instrument approach chart or anything like that or a plate, you're not really gonna an E6B or ForeFlight is not going to help you. Same thing with AI. So I see a lot of business owners or people starting up, they like to vibe code a lot of stuff. If they don't know how to program, if they don't know what a function is, if they don't know what a variable is, then how are you going to program a whole app, by vibe coding with Claude or with Lovable, whatever? You just don't know how to do it. You're just basically spinning your wheels off and burning tokens. So anyway, I went off a tangent there, but it's like I get so riled up because I see all these people doing it. Then they try to launch and deploy it and it doesn't work. So same thing with flying. If you don't really know how to fly and you don't know how to read a chart, you just have a big iPad on you and you go up in the air and you're gonna be unsafe because you don't have any situational awareness. So make sure you understand the fundamentals first and all that type of stuff. At ForeFlight, so you currently write the blogs, do the marketing for them. Talk to us about the experience of it. Like, what are some cool things that are happening at ForeFlight and Jepson? What are some things that you guys are working on and that we can look forward to in the future?
Yeah, I've got to be careful because I'm like, I got to separate. Like, I know too much. I know about the future releases that aren't out yet.
Don't tell me, I
Um,
guess. I don't know.
yeah,
Tell us
no, no,
tell
no.
us what you can tell us.
Yeah, that's what I'm. So this time of year is always a big time for our company, but for aviation in general. With Oshkosh coming up, that's when we do like our biggest launches of the year. So there is a lot of cool stuff coming out with that. But yeah, it's been awesome. It's been such a great company to work for. I've really enjoyed it. Part of what is so cool for me is that it is fully remote for me, so I get to work from home, and I love that. But the team is awesome. There's a ton of pilots on all aspects of the company, on the marketing team, engineering team. Like there's pilots all across the company, which I think is really crucial for what we do. And it has been I've just learned so much. I feel like I learn something new about the app all the time about what it can do. But yeah, some things that we're excited about. So last year we launched dynamic procedures and debrief, and I wanted to bring debrief up actually because I think that's a really cool tool for flight schools and for CFIs. So if you go to the menu on your ForeFlight app or on web and look at track logs, you'll be able to see like a breakdown of that flight. So really helpful tool when you are debriefing a flight. You can actually go back and have data to back up what you are talking about. So you can see, and you can actually look at scores too for
Yeah, does it give you a
maneuvers.
score? Yeah, I
Yeah.
saw that. So I saw that this is a new one because that was not available like a few months ago. But I was flying cross countries and I went to the track logs and it gave me a rating on my flight. Like, oh,
Yeah. You're like,
your
hey,
landing was horrible. Your approach speed was too fast. I'm like, what? Where are you coming?
how do you
Says
know
who?
that?
How do you know? It's like says who?
Yeah.
Who's this?
Yeah. So it rolled out on web last year, but now it will be available on mobile too. So we're excited about that. But yeah, so I think that's a huge one. I started using that. I mean, it's only been out a year now, so I started using that with students like towards the end of my stint where I was a more active CFI, and just being able to show like this is a steep turn. You see how like this one was a little bit too fast, and we can actually go back and have the data for that instead of just trying to make notes as you go and remember. You can actually watch a playback of the flight and see all of it. So I think that's really cool. Yeah, other new features. I probably can't tell you more new features because I don't remember what's out yet and what's not. So, but there's more coming. We usually do like our biggest launch of the year is usually at Osh. We will introduce what's coming, and then in the weeks following Oshkosh, those launches will come out.
Cool. So to summarize and just more to entice our viewers here, so you are making an announcement at Oshkosh, or is there a new feature getting launched at Oshkosh? You don't have to tell us what the
Oh
feature
yeah, there's
is, but
always well, maybe I shouldn't say always. I've only been now with ForeFlight for 2 Oshkoshes, but there's almost always a new something to see at Sun and Fun as well. There's usually like at least one new big thing to come see. So, come by the booth and come see what we're working on. But yeah, there's just so much. I'm really excited about what the team is rolling out for sure.
awesome. Well, part of our what our normal setup for the podcast is too is to do call to action. So we are in our last 10 minutes here. I want to bring up something you brought. You told them. So Oshkosh is coming up in what? We have 2 weeks to 4 weeks. I don't know. I don't know. But
Yeah,
I guess one of the call
end
to
of
actions you
July.
made. End of July, right? Yeah, July 20th or
Yeah.
something. I have no idea. We need to plan for that because I think we're going. So, what are some of the? So, I think obviously you're asking our viewers to check you get ForeFlight out in Oshkosh. Is that correct? Will you have a booth
Yeah,
there?
so I'm not a formal representative of the company. So yes, of course, come see us. I will be there. I think I'm there before the show even starts, and then I'll be there all week.
Okay.
So, but I'll be working with the media team. So if you see me, I'll be walking around with a camera and all that stuff. It'll be fun.
Cool. Well, we're gonna come. We're gonna come in there and bring our cameras too, and we'll have cameras on cameras on cameras.
Yeah, perfect. Everyone with like the super long lenses. That'll be me.
There you go. Yeah, they gotta take a picture of the raptor over there.
Yeah.
Another thing we didn't touch on is your future. So I like to kind of structure this podcast on like your past, what you did in the past, your present, kind of what we're doing now, and also your future, what you're intending to do. So one of the things I really liked about this recording and this show is that you mentioned that you did not follow the typical path. You're a flight attendant, you got furloughed, you went into flight school, you got your CFII, and now you're working for Jepson and ForeFlight. Now you're doing the marketing and you're having a great time. It's just a testament that not everyone has to be an airline pilot. I think, me included. When I first started flight training, I was gearing for the airlines. I was flying every day, trying to, rush it through and get all my hours in. And life had different things for me. And now I run a marketing agency. We help, dozens of schools across the country. We've made a great impact to all of our customers' lives and all their student pilots' lives. And for you've definitely grown and you're not an airline pilot, but now you're working with Jepson, and there's another route that's out there. So there's just so many different avenues in aviation that I want to tell the world out there. It's not just so cut and dry. You get your hours in and now you're going to airlines. There's so many options out there. For Carly, what are you doing in the future? Do you plan? What's your where do you see yourself in 5-10 years? You see yourself flying still? What do you plan on doing next?
Yeah, definitely still flying. I 100% agree. I think the idea of airline flying was what got me to go to flight school in the first place. But along the way, I discovered GA, and I realized at some point, I think I've actually arrived at where I wanted to be when I thought that I wanted to be an airline pilot. What I mean by that is I wanted a high-paying job. I wanted flexibility. I wanted a challenge. I wanted to expand myself and learn as much as I could. And I have done all of that and more. So it's been an amazing surprise. And I really encourage anyone who is wanting a career in aviation to just be open to the possibilities. I think the airlines really bring people in the door because that's just the general public's understanding of aviation typically is commercial flying. So it makes sense if that's the way you get in. But then I would just encourage you to not pigeonhole yourself into, I have to be an airline captain, or even I have to fly for one specific airline. Success in aviation can just take on so many forms. And nothing that I'm doing now I could have planned for several years ago. It all
Me as
just
well.
came about the way that it did. And but it's not a path that I could have ever predicted. So I would say just be open to what can come, and be willing to try things out too. Because I thought when this job came up, I thought, I don't know if I want a corporate job, but I'll try it. If I hate it, I can always quit and I can go back to freelancing because I'm already doing that. So be willing to try new things. So for me, my future is definitely still in aviation, but I've really, like I said, found my home in general aviation. So not that I will never fly corporate, I will never fly airlines, anything like that. But I just know that right now, I really love being in GA. I love getting to work from home and be creative on the side still and making my own content. So all of that has been great. I am looking forward to buying an airplane. So I have co-owned an airplane with my dad for the last couple years, but he and I are, looking ahead he doesn't fly, and he thought he wanted to learn how to fly, but he actually doesn't. So now we're kind of thinking like, what does this look like going forward? I still want to fly. So I'm looking forward to buying on my own and being 100% owner. And that's probably like a year and a half, 2 years, but 5 to 10 years is hard for me. It's hard to say.
One.
I just know that I love, I love getting to be creative and fly, and any way that I can do those two things. So one thing I am working on, though, I'm working on bringing my artistic background back into focus. It's something I kind of set aside for a while I pursued my aviation career, but I am an artist and got my degree in painting of all things, but I still am painting on the side. So I'm working on some creative marriage with the aviation industry, which I know that I speak to so many pilots who also have creative tendencies, or like a side hustle, or a creative hobby that can relate, that you're not just one thing. And flying is so amazing, and people are just so multifaceted. So I'm really trying to bring a space for that.
I love it. I love your message, being creative, flying around. I think I've had to summarize kind of your messages that you kind of gave us today. One is, put yourself out there. So if you're an independent CFI, if you're a flight school business owner or anything like that, or maybe a corporate, I don't know, steps in, put yourself out there, get yourself out in the market, talk to people, network, get on the ground, meet people in person, be consistent, is another thing that you mentioned as well, doing that stuff. You got to do that so people know you, like you, and trust you. No one's going to do business unless they know you, like you, and trust you. So build the trust up by being available, and then also being open. I think that's another message you mentioned just now, is like, be open to where the universe and the world takes you. I'm not sure if you're religious, but God's plan, or the universe's plan, whatever you want to say. Everyone has different paths. I was on the path to be an airline pilot, and then I was able to start Right Rudder Marketing. We've had such a great impact. I would have never imagined this in 10 years prior to this. I would never have thought this was a real thing. So yeah, be open to wherever the world takes you, and always keep flying and keep trying. So before we end, Carly, is there any last call to actions you want to tell our audience? Anything that you want them to do? Like and subscribe your channel, maybe.
Yeah, that's my handle right there. I'm at Carly Chamerlik on Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok. Those are the main places you can find me. But yeah, anything that I'm putting out that's new is going to be highlighted on my website. So carlychamerlik.com is where you can find whatever I'm up to next.
Awesome. Yeah. So if you are listening to the Aviation Business Podcast, please check out Carly over there, carlychamerlik.com. Wonderful guest. We loved it. Check her out at Oshkosh. So Oshkosh is coming up in a few weeks. So be there or be square. Make sure you go. It's the biggest aviation event in the world. Come fly into the most busiest airport in the world, at least for a week, and check out Oshkosh in Wisconsin. Or I'd say Wisconsin. Go to Wisconsin, guys. All right. So we're going to wrap up here. If you've been listening to this is the Aviation Business Podcast. We're so glad you guys are on here. If you are a flight school, please check out rightruddermarketing.com. We do have a new Facebook group out there. We just started. It's called the Pilot Lounge, Flight School Owner Lounge. Please check out our Facebook group. If you're a flight school owner, collaborate, join the network, join the community, dive in there. We want to see you. We want to answer your questions. We want to, see what the challenges you're facing. If you are looking for help, check us out, rightruddermarketing.com. info@rightruddermarketing.com is our email address. We also have our phone number, 314-804-1200. Make sure you squawk VFR. And if you also want to be on a guest on a podcast, please give us a call, give us an email, same contact information there, 804-1200, info@rightruddermarketing.com. So without further ado, we are going to conclude here. Thank you so much, Carly. It's been a pleasure. Come follow Carly on her Instagram and her YouTube, and make sure you download ForeFlight. And then also check us out in Oshkosh. So we'll see you guys pretty soon if you go to Oshkosh. So see you guys around.
Thank you. This is great. Thanks, Tim.
Thanks, Carly.